Josh wrote about the comparison of coaches, and we do this a lot after year 3. Year 3 is always a good year to do that. And I said, Josh, how about this? I think this is a good idea. You compare Josh Heupel to his predecessors in year 3. And Josh texted me back. I just emailed the story, and man, Derek Dooley struggled. That's a nice way to put it. How would you
that's
compare?
Complimentary.
That's not exactly not exactly what Josh texted. How much better off is Tennessee under Josh Heupel than its predecessors? And we'll dive into some of the numbers.
Well, I think if you look at structure of the program, leadership, belief in who is in charge, Josh Heupel's characteristics are more impressive than his predecessors. 2 of the 3 didn't make it beyond 3 seasons. Dooley and Jeremy Pruitt were done after 3 years. Dooley's on-field product was horrible. Pruitt, the on-field product in 2020 was not good at all, but there was everything going on behind the scenes that may have been used to get him out, which really made things worse for the program in terms of some of the things they would have to rebuild. So when you look at where's the program and where's it moving forward, part of that comes back to recruiting. Well, the 2013 class struggled after a coaching change. The 21 class is almost like a non-existent group. I think they have 4 signees left on the roster from that 2021 class because of everything that was going on, and that was a hire that was made later. So then you come back to Butch Jones. I think that's the one comparison to really try to make to figure out, okay, what's different? How can it be better? Because you want better results, knowing how it played out beyond 2015 for Butch Jones. And I have more confidence in Josh Heupel than I did at the time, and certainly looking back, see with Butch Jones. But there are questions that have to be answered. How do they close out this 2024 class? There is the transfer portal aspect of it as well. So what kind of players can they find to supplement what was lost in 2021? Part of Butch Jones' challenge was having to replace or fill in gaps that were left by Derek Dooley. That 2013 class was not a great one. The 2012 class didn't have any offensive linemen. Dooley didn't sign one. So those were some of the roster challenges that Butch Jones faced at the time. In 2015, they signed a big-time class. It did not end up living up to the hype. They signed a top 5 class in 2015. That season, the Vols were able to go 8-4, just like this team did in season 3. But they lost those 4 games by a combined 17 points. That would be the real disappointment of this year's team. Not just losing 4 games, but losing by at least 13 points in each game, and then losing by an average of 21 points. The losses were not competitive by the end for Tennessee. They need to clean that up, of course, to be in more games in the fourth quarter, to have a chance to improve the record and get closer to where they were in 2022.
Josh, to push back a little bit, though, with the Butch Jones thing, I want to know what your thoughts are on this and how you compare them. I know you talk about what Butch Jones inherited walking in 2013. I would argue it wasn't as nearly as bad as what Josh Heupel inherited in 2021. As a matter of fact, I want to know your thoughts on this. If I had to make the argument over who walked into the best situation of any coach since Lane Kiffin, I would say probably it was Butch Jones. And I want to know if you think that's. I don't think the roster was as wrecked as it was when Dooley walked in because of what Kiffin did.
I strongly disagree.
Really? Tennessee had their whole offensive line drafted after 2013, after Butch Jones' first year. Now I know they didn't recruit any offensive line.
They had to replace all those guys by year 2, and they had to do that with a 2012 class that didn't include any offensive linemen, and there was no transfer portal to be able to replace them with veteran players to come in. So yeah, in 2013, you're right, he had a good offensive line, but they were gone after that. So Tyler Bray left, so the NFL quarterback was off to the league. So the quarterback position at the time was very weak. Josh Heupel inherited Hendon Hooker, who would end up being a Heisman finalist. And that's not to take away from the help that Josh Heupel provided to get Hendon into that spot. But Hendon's a terrific talent, far better than what Butch Jones inherited at the quarterback position. Neither coach walked into a good position, but I don't think Butch Jones walked into a much better spot than Josh Heupel. No way.
I will say this about the situation that, and again, some of these numbers are astounding that Josh pulled up. So go to offthehooksports.com. I would argue too that if I'm Josh Heupel, I feel a lot better about the whole athletic department than any of those other guys and who they were hired by. No offense to Philip Fulmer, but Dave Hart, all those guys, they I mean, that was a bunch of dudes that didn't seem like they knew how to hire a coach.
Yeah, Danny White is he is the best athletic director of the ADs that were in charge during these coaches we're talking about tenure. Without
and he's also
without
the
any
best
hesitation.
hirer, and he's also the best hirer of athletic directors in the country, which is a big deal. Josh, it's funny. I want to bring up. I want to actually expand this a little bit when we talk about Josh Heupel's third year, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this because compared to not just his predecessors, but comparing him to legends of college football, Steve Spurrier in his third year at Florida went 9-4. Nick Saban in his third year at LSU went 8-5, and Urban Meyer in his third year at Florida went 9-4. So isn't it safe to say he's actually in pretty good company in terms of having 4 losses his third year at Tennessee?
Yeah, from a record standpoint, sure. I mean, if you look at overall Heupel compared to the previous coaches at Tennessee we're talking about, it's easily Heupel. Whether we're talking about overall or SEC or against higher quality opponents. So then you kind of step out and say, okay, how's he done against coaches that we knew went on and had big time success? And some of those coaches had more success than Heupel had through 3 years. If you just look at individual seasons or overall record, like Meyer has a national title in year 2, but year 2 for Josh Heupel, he won 11 games, 10-2 in the regular season. So year 2 was a big year for Tennessee, and then a slide back in 2023. And then, of course, Tennessee is hoping to make a jump back closer to where they were 2 seasons prior by the time they get to next fall. So that's the next step. Can you recruit at the highest level like some of those coaches were able to do to start building a real roster moving forward? That's part of the challenge. And the way you do it is different now than the way some of these coaches have in the past. But most often, programs that you've seen reach a national championship level over the last 25, 30 years, by year 2 or year 3, you could see that potential was there. That's why looking back at somebody like Derek Dooley at the end of year 2, when there was still debate about, hey, I wonder if he can still get Tennessee back to the top. If you go back and look at what they were producing at that time, it's laughable that it would have even been considered. And we found out a year later there was no chance. But Josh Heupel showed in year 2 that, yeah, there's something there. They have to kind of redo some things because of the players that departed. And this year was a reminder of that, of the system, scheme, development. That's great, but you need real talent to hit the full potential in that development.